Hi, I'm Peggy Kelly with Santa Paula Times, and today it's Good Morning Santa Paula. And joining us today is we've got Community and Economic Development Director for the City of Santa Paula. That's such a great title, I have to read it out. James Mason, who is joining us Thursday, February 4th. And we're ready to talk about all the things that are happening that he has input on, and also he receives all of the input on, and his department handles so much. James, just to start off a little bit, explain to people what's under your department. I think that
Okay.
sometimes people don't realize how big your department is.
Okay. Yeah. And what's interesting is, the department is small but mighty.
Yes,
We've,
small
we've
but
got we've got 8 people in our department, but what we do is basically planning, which is anything to do with land use and development and entitlement, building and safety, which is what happens vertically on that planned land. And also we recently contracted with a company through our public works department that we have a in-house project engineer that does engineering. So the civil engineering and engineering, building, planning, and economic development, which is business assistance and job growth. And then you start to branch out into all kinds of other things that relate to that. When we're talking about development and economic development, we're talking about housing. So there's a lot of anything that has to deal with vertical development. But I think the one thing I always want to underscore with people, as much as we deal with plans and planning and development and economic development, just like most of what this city does as an organization, it's about people. It's about the social infrastructure and the social environment. Everything we do is, how do we make this community better for the people that live here? It's not just buildings and bricks and mortar.
Well, that's great. Yeah, that's because Santa Paula is a true community. So even though sometimes you wonder, but it's a true community. Let's talk about now I mean, so what is happening with development activity? I know, surprisingly enough, even with COVID, it seems pretty brisk.
Yeah, with the low interest rates and with really through this whole COVID crisis, anything related to development and land development has been considered an essential service. So contractors, developers, engineers, all of that has really not missed much of a beat. So for us, that's really good, because this is, the first time in a long time that Santa Paula has had as much going on as we do right now.
Yes.
And with the harvest development, which is 500 acres of residential development, they're way ahead of where they thought they would be, just from the standpoint of development and sales. Right now, they're just about done with phase 1. It's almost sold out. So we're getting ready to go into 2 things, phase 2, and also there's a site that originally was going to be the site for an elementary school, but through state funding and the decrease in enrollment, there's not going to be a school out there. So they're getting ready to submit for modification to actually do more single-family homes out there.
Oh, okay, there you go. And I know their first, they were approved initially for 1,500 dwelling units.
Right.
And that was whether it be apartments or mostly single-family homes. So do you feel that this is going to be, considering the location, any ideas on what kind of housing they're going to propose, or how many units?
It'd probably be in 150 to 200 more units than we expected. So that 1,500 may push 1,800. So we'll see. And apartments are still, we're kind of on the back burner. We'll see where they go and what happens. But there's a lot of land to be developed, and there's still 3 more phases and hillside homes and things like that. So there's and a 36-acre park. So there's a lot of and then south, as we head towards 126, there's opportunities for quite a bit of commercial development that'll both support this community and Harvest. Not that they're separate communities; it's all part of Santa Paula.
Right, absolutely. And the nice thing is too, is once they sell a certain amount of homes, that's going to trigger the first phase of the park.
Right.
Park.
And we're getting close. So
Yeah.
I think we're probably 2 years away from being there. So that's exciting. There's it's a different town, but not so different, just a lot better. I see some great things. And the one thing, I may have mentioned this before when we talked, but what excites me about this town is the momentum and the interest and the excitement that this town has. You know, when you have change and you have new things, you know, communities generally deal with that with some level of trepidation. It's like, oh, what's going to happen? But I think there's this type of support that we're getting from the community and the excitement that we're getting is such a great time. Because, you know, with all these changes that are going on, it's tough to manage. And when you have the support of the community and their input on what they expect, it makes things so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And Santa Paulans has always been greatly involved. And of course, this project initially was approved by voters. I think it was 86% of the voters approved the project that came out to vote. So they've always been very supportive of Limoneira, as Limoneira has been supportive of Santa Paula. So, and it is beautiful out there. And I know there's the proverbial selling like hotcakes out there. So, you know, I'm glad. Now, downtown improvements, we're going to be having new residents. We're going to be getting them downtown come heck or high water. So what's happening in the downtown?
Well, the main thing we're dealing with right now with downtown, we're going to be going to council in a couple of weeks to just talk about downtown assets. Last month, we went to council with a framework for facade improvement program to help businesses and, you know, basically improve storefronts along Main Street. And the feedback we got from the business community and from council was that's really good, really important. A lot of businesses are taxed right now financially because of COVID. So, you know, being able to contribute to something like that may be limiting. But more importantly, what are the other assets that we have downtown that need improvement, especially the public assets? So I think you know, my experience in kind of urban development and downtown development is developers and individual property owners and businesses need to have the confidence that the city is contributing and creating a better environment. So that, you know, kind of putting your money where your mouth is. Downtown's important. Show us downtown's important. So we're going to look at all those assets, everything from the parking lots that we have to what can we do with Main Street to encourage more outdoor dining and activity and things like special events, and how can we close off the streets in a good way. We need lighting. We need wayfinding. I talk to a lot of businesses, and one of the biggest concerns that I get is, yeah, there's parking. There's more parking than we need, but people can't find the parking lots, and a lot of those parking lots are behind buildings, and at night they may not be as safe. So things like, you know, well lit, landscapes, you know, spaces. And the thing I see just from, you know, traveling and seeing other cities that are really active, some of the most active and exciting places in cities are the alleys and back of restaurants and back of stores. You know, those are the places that you find things that you feel like you're the first person that discovered that thing back there, that little art shop or something else. And we've got all those spaces that are an asset that we need to figure out how to activate and create more, because the more people we have within our spaces, the safer they are. That's the key to that. Eyes and ears on the street. So we're going to be doing a study session with council to talk about those things and start to figure out to rank them, and then determine what are the costs associated with those. How do you figure out which ones you should do first? Some are going to be millions of dollars, some are going to be hundreds of dollars. So we'll start to work through that. And I think the one thing I really want to underscore, you know, a big function of, you know, the department that I run is planning, and planning has notoriety of doing a lot of planning. Yes. And planning is great, but without action, it's a problem. And that's what we're committed to come up with ideas and come up with vision, but what's the implementation? People don't need to see what's going to happen in 10, 15 years. We've got probably, you know, 6 to 8 month window when COVID's hopefully going to be waning away, that Santa Paula needs to be open for business. What are the things that we can do to make it exciting and vibrant so people want to be here? We need to bring people in here.
Absolutely. And one way they have in the past are the festivals and the gatherings and things like that, which of course have been impossible now. So it's a matter of coming back bigger and better than ever, and new attractions and new things to look at. I think that's great, because our downtown really is a treasure here. It really is. Now,
yeah, one thing that I think that we talked about is there ways that we can put in infrastructure that makes it really easy to make those shifts. You know, like right now we've got, you know, those orange and white K rails for outdoor dining to separate from the street. Is there something we can do that's more aesthetic, that's more flexible, that maybe there's things that could be kind of plug and play, that just take a few people to put in bollards or do something like that. So we're looking at some ways to make downtown more flexible. If we want to do a street festival, it doesn't take a whole day to set everything up. We can, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, that's one of the, if there's any positives at all, which there aren't in a way with COVID, but it certainly has shown that people really enjoy outdoor dining. And you know, and they've done that in other places and in Santa Paula, and of course now our restaurants have reopened, but it's been remarkably popular. And I know the city is really thinking about let's keep it, you know, no matter what the circumstances. So I think that's a great way that they're going. Now, housing. Let's talk about housing because we need houses too. We've got the housing initiatives. We've got the housing element, affordability. I know I've gotten questions from people sometimes about what all this means. So, would you like to address housing?
Yeah, it kind of starts off with two functions. One is that the state has requirements. Every 8 years they come out. Well, every year they come out with, but every 8 years we're responsible to identify and respond to the regional housing needs assessment. How many homes should we be planning for and creating policies and land use that allow for that to happen? And that usually has a split. Yeah, and there's just usually a 50-50 split. Half of them are market rate and half of them are affordable. And affordable is low to low income would be the range for those. And you know, one thing I've been encouraged by several people, and just in general nomenclature, to use the word affordable and stay away from low income, because when we talk about affordable, we want to be sure that everybody that comes to Santa Paula has access to affordable housing, whether that was Elon Musk or whether that's someone who's homeless. What's the best option? We should have the best option in the county for people, because that's going to be a function of our economic development success. You know, people talk about, well, if we have executive housing, we'll bring in an executive, they'll bring their business here. Well, that's great, but who's going to work for his business? We don't have the employees. We've got to have the tiers and the layers to be able to bring that success. So that's the one thing, is the state requirements. But the other thing is just our responsibility to the community. We recognize that there are households that have 3 generations living in one roof and they don't have space. What can we do? We've got, you know, people let their kids back home because they can't afford to live here. They want to, but they can't. So what can we do to create spaces that are affordable for everyone? And a lot of that, and you know, one of the first policy moves that we did was encouraging and allowing residential within our commercial zones. After the harvest development, we don't have any big swaths of land for a housing subdivision. It's going to be infill throughout the city. And when you look at the rest of the city, other than the existing neighborhoods, the only real vacant lots and opportunities are in commercial. And a lot of that, you know, you kind of talked about downtown, you know, the ability to have 2nd story or 3rd story residents above businesses in downtown, like a lot of urban areas, that creates more vibrant downtown and a 24/7 environment. People living here, people shopping here, people visiting, and
you know, more eyes on the street.
Yeah, and think about on the most basic level, a person who's in a service level position, working in a restaurant or whatever else, the fact that they could have a small apartment within downtown and walk down the street and go to work. I mean, that would be a dream for a young person or a retired person that's looking for, you know, a place to live and enjoy. You know, not everyone wants, you know, the acre and a mule. So that's, or yeah, so that's a lot of what we're working on. We've got some great grants from the Housing and Community Development Department of the state. I think so far we've got about $310,000 to implement policies, to do plans to encourage affordable housing. And we've had incredible interest. The amount of interest that we've had from not only the people that do affordable housing development, but people who have never done it before. Like, we saw what you did, and you know, it seems like this is a good time to build affordable housing. You know, what can we do? So I think we're going to see a lot of really innovative projects. Our goal is to look at, probably this kind of dovetails with downtown. Right now we're doing an asset map of understanding the downtown and what each parcel looks like. What are all the components that exist on that parcel? Ownership, infrastructure, how could it be built? What would be the highest and best use of that in a 3-dimensional model? And then when somebody comes in and says, I'm interested in building X, we can point them to a site and go, that matches what you want to do. If you check all these boxes, go build it. You don't have to do anything else. And that's one of the biggest impasses to development is the entitlement process and going through checking all the boxes and making sure the design's right and everything else. If they can start off knowing that they're all ready to go, that could cut out a year of, just prep work. So, and that's money.
Important too. Yeah, streamlining it.
Yeah, exactly.
When you talk about having, I find that fascinating about like maybe conceptually alley businesses, as it were. Now we've got so many buildings downtown that actually only probably half of them are utilized because they're absolutely huge. They were built in the early 1900s for the most part. And is there any possibility that these buildings would be able to be split at all, or do building owners have opportunities to perhaps split their buildings?
I'll give you a really good example. I met with a developer in Ventura, and he had a building that was about, I want to say probably about 8,000 square feet. And it was deep, like a lot of the ones we have, like the old JC buildings. And what he did was he had one tenant that was an antique store. And when they left, he split the building in half depth-wise. Then he split it in half width-wise. So he went from one tenant to 4 tenants. And, from his own pro forma, that was a whole lot more money. But from the standpoint of activity on the street, that created a whole lot more action and activity and people coming and going. So the back two were residential and the front two were commercial.
Yeah, absolutely. And business growth, I mean, people who really have no need for a great big building have an opportunity to be downtown, let's say, because that is part of the issue I hear very often from people is all the smaller places are taken and
Right.
all the larger places are too large for them. So that sounds great.
And I think the thing about that too, to your point, if we really grow towards success downtown, I mean, a good example is a space like most of what we have downtown is probably about 4 to 5 times per square foot in Ventura than it is here. So as things improve, those smaller spaces, just like smaller apartments, cost per square foot creates a lower barrier to entry to businesses. And again, not too many people need, 150-foot deep space.
I know.
So
Yeah.
we'll be working on that. And I've talked to businesses. When you look at north-south off of Main Street, you only have 2 ways to go north-south. That's the Green Alley, right off of Davis, and the Art Alley, where kind of David's Kitchen, Dodo, that those are the only 2 places you can go north-south through downtown. So when I think about the key to that is back doors to businesses becoming front doors too. So if you think about those alleys, and I mean, look how active David's Kitchen is, and it's hidden in the back, and that parking lot is booming all the time because he's back there. So I think being able to create those spaces and those accesses will, and I talk to businesses about it. They'd be excited to do that, except we've got to create safe spaces back there.
Yes. A building challenge, but that can be done. Very good. Now, do you have any sort of an update for us on COVID as far as development?
I think probably the 2 biggest things I want to talk about. Number one is, Super Bowl weekend's coming up, and the county is really trying to encourage people to be thoughtful because we went through Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and each one of those created an incredible spike. And, if people can be thoughtful about what they're doing, and if they want to have a Super Bowl party, do it virtually, just Skype or Zoom and do whatever else and stick with your household. And if you want to do something a little bit different, go out and, go to our restaurants. The ones that you can sit outside, go sit outside and, enjoy a meal before or after the game. And, right now they're talking about TVs in restaurants that they're leaving it up to the discretion of the businesses, but they just want to make sure people aren't gathering, in tight spaces. And, and the thing, I think the hardest thing about the whole gathering thing in restaurants, the encouragement is for people of the same household to be together. And that's a little bit of a hurdle for people. You want to be with your friends or whatever else, but just think about, this is probably, yesterday was probably the first day where numbers were really down, and as far as COVID goes, and if we could just maintain that, that could be really good, especially on on the front of a vaccine coming through. So let's just keep our fingers crossed with good things. The other, oh, go ahead.
I was speaking of vaccine. I know that yesterday, Mr. Zimmerman with the county said that Santa Paula is going to in all probability, get a vaccine center. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, we've been talking about that, just trying to find the right location and timing and everything else. The testing site that we had on Main Street was a little problematic. So we're trying to work for something a little bit better. We have some sites that we've been talking about that we think we can make the flow better. So hopefully that'll come sooner rather than later. The other thing I wanted to mention, really important to our businesses, is the financial assistance that's available. And I want to encourage people to go to the county website and do COVID business assistance, and just, you can type that into your Google search and it'll come up. There are two funding sources available to small businesses that may be struggling through this. And one is a loan program, and it's basically a payroll loan program. It's to be able to help people meet payroll and pay their rent and those type of things. And the other thing is the second round of a grant program. Both of these are from the state and coming through the county. The Economic Development Collaborative has help centers in Spanish and English that can walk people through applications and everything else. And you can find that information on our website, and you can find it on the Chamber's website under COVID assistance and business assistance. So I encourage people to go out there and get it. We did really well the first round in Santa Paula. We encourage, the money that was coming through the county, that it needs to be equitable. We didn't need everything to go to Thousand Oaks. We've got folks all over that need us. Many of our businesses did get it.
With this new round, though, if you received a grant in the first round, are you still eligible for the second round? Or?
I'm trying to remember. Let me see here real quick.
And I know that all sorts of programs, you can go to vcrecovers.com too,
right,
and that'll guide you around also. And of course, the city's website is spcity.org.
Yeah, the way it is, those who applied for round one but didn't receive a grant will automatically be in that. But those who did receive, that was just that first round. So,
but is it open again for people that received the first grant?
Yeah, I don't believe it is. I think it's just that first grant.
It was, yeah. But that's fine, because there were plenty of people they got in too late, or there were so many people that applied. So, and I'm happy that the people that applied the first time or have a second chance now too. Well, that's great.
Yeah. But we're just, businesses have been really resilient. I think the thing that's helped us a lot is to get that outdoor dining back and to have personal services open again, because we've got a lot of folks that were just really struggling.
Yes, I know.
But we've got, as I said before, we've got a creative and resilient town, and it's exciting to see people rise to the occasion and change their business model, not only for COVID, but just moving forward, that just points that they're going to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Very good point. Yes, absolutely. Well, James, it's always a pleasure to have you as a guest, and I appreciate it. Do you have anything you'd like to add, or any last thoughts?
Other than, folks, be safe, and, let's recover quickly. We've got some great things to do in this town, and we look forward to working with the community to make them happen.
Great. Well, James, thank you so much. And
thank you.
We had James Mason, who, let me read it again, because I love his title, Community and Economic Development Director. And he's given us a lot of, be sure to watch this on 10, the City Spectrum Cable Channel 10, itv.com or .net or org or whatever, but it's out there. And also on YouTube. If you go to YouTube, be sure to subscribe. It doesn't cost anything, and it helps us bring more broadcasting like this to you. Do have a wonderful weekend, but don't let Super Bowl be a super spreader. Please wash your hands. Do everything you have to do to really help us get rid of COVID. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend and a safe weekend. Bye-bye.